Welcome to the Butterfly Effect. I'm Chris Horner. This is stage 2 of the Tour de France 2022. Today, stage 209 kilometers, about 130 miles in distance, and 5 categorized climb on today's stage. Now it's the last one, Yaskibble, just over 8 kilometers long at about 5.2, 5.3%. Doesn't look that hard on paper, right? Well, I've done this climb a number of times. When I did the Classica San Sebastian, the one-day classic race, was like a World Cup race back in the day when I used to do it. But of course, it's been knocked down just a little bit in how important it is in the calendar, because normally it comes on just after Tour de France finishes. But at 5.3%, it doesn't sound that difficult, but once they get up past the little stair step halfway up, right where the sanctuary of the church is right there, that's when it starts climbing really hard for just about 4 kilometers long at over 7%. So the last half of this climb is definitely difficult, and the stage, like I already said, 209 kilometers, so you know there's a lot of miles in the legs of the riders once they hit this last Yaskibble climb on today's course. It's going to summit with just about 15 kilometers to go on today's stage, drop down, pretty easy first half of the climb, but then gets technical and really 180 turns and switchbacks all the way into the bottom with about 8 kilometers to go on today's stage. Then it starts going into the city and running along the coast there as it finishes in San Sebastian. Now the race will start in Vitoria, the capital of the Basque Country, and it'll just go all the way north as it goes up to the San Sebastian area, like I said. When the racing starts, we see my man Victor Campenaerts. He throws in the first attack of the day. It's caught quickly. Then we see another group of about 10, and you see Matteo Trentin right in there, UAE Team Emirates. Well, they got the race leader, Adam Yates, and they got the 2-time Tour de France champion from 2 years back and 3 years back. That's Tadej Pogačar, and he's sitting third on the classification. This group gets brought back. As you see, it was Jumbo-Visma just behind the group there, sitting second wheel, that was patrolling everything to bring it all back together. Now, once it gets all back together, we start seeing the big next attacks. It's going to be 3 riders going up the road. It's Edvald Boasson-Hagen. It's the KOM jersey, the American rider Nielsen Palace, riding for EF Education, and Remy Cavagna, Soudal Quickstep. These 3 riders start getting a gap, and we see my man Victor Campenaerts back there trying to close the gap and make it up to this breakaway. So he has a shot at winning today's stage 2 of the Tour de France, but that group will get brought back. Then we see the peloton go curb to curb, and these 3 riders are gone. Guys, these 3 riders are gone fast in today's stage 2. I was really surprised to see this because after yesterday's stage 1 on the Butterfly Effect, I told you guys, UAE Team Emirates, they might ride some guys on the front in today's stage 2, but I don't know how much they would ride. So if I was going to try to be a breakaway specialist, today's the day I definitely want to be in it. Well, they let only 3 riders go in a short amount of time on today's stage, and now we start seeing UAE Team Emirates get on the front. The road squeezes up quickly as it's going uphill, and then there's a little bit of hesitation in the back there as all the riders get a little clustered up and have to pull their feet out of the pedals. We see that Sepp Kuss right there, and we see one of the fans giving him a push. If you're ever watching a bike race, giving a rider a push, try to do it right on his hip, not necessarily on the bike, because the bike, you have control of what direction he goes. If you push his hip, it's a little bit more easy for the rider that you're pushing to keep everything under control. Well, everything stays together, no big deal. The racing's starting to go up the road with the 3 riders, and the biggest gap they'll see with about 140 kilometers to go in today's stage is 5 minutes. Behind, like I said, UAE Team Emirates, they started riding on front. It's Vegard Stokalagan up there, and it's Mikhail Berg. These 2 riders are starting to ride pretty deep and hard in the stage. They'll come up to the first sprint line competition. We'll see Edvald Boasson-Hagen roll through with no sprint back there with the 3 original breakaway riders up the road. Then when we look at the peloton behind, man, it's a fight back there. They're super wide. Everyone's going to the line, and it's a bike throw for Jasper Philipsen, the Albacete de Koenig rider. That'll take the sprint line competition with the bike throw over Sam Welsford from DSM. Now, the breakaway's still up there. These guys are driving hard. We come up to the first KOM of the day. It's Nielsen Palace that gets it for no fight from his breakaway companions. Now behind, with about 120 kilometers to go, things start getting interesting with the UAE Team Emirates because we see it's Matteo Trentin and he's having talks up there with Mikkel Bjerg. Mikkel Bjerg's basically just shrugging him off like we're going full gas. So let me back the film up and we'll bring it back to yesterday's stage 1 finish with UAE Team Emirates, Adam Yates in the race leader's jersey, and Tadej Pogačar, the big favorite, sitting third on the general classification. Let's get into the riders' heads here because at 120 kilometers to go, while I'm sitting on the Chesterfield, I'm thinking these guys are doing a bit of work up here on the front, UAE Team Emirates, and not getting much help. But they're drilling Vegard and they're drilling Mikkel Bjerg on the front. You see Matteo Trentin. Surely he wants them just to go a little bit easier, but Mikkel Bjerg wants them to go harder. So I need to know what was said in the riders' meeting to know for sure what kind of strategy you want to employ here on today's stage 2 if you're trying to ride full gas like Mikkel Bjerg's doing, where he's burning some legs of the UAE Team Emirates rider. Or do you want to back off a little bit because you're Matteo Trentin and he was throwing some ugly facial features out there as he's trying to get Mikkel Bjerg to slow down? Well, if you're in the riders' meeting, the director said, guys, we're riding full gas today. We're going to bring this down. So we get on Jas Gibbel and we go for the time bonus sprint competition at the top there at the KOM because it's 8 seconds for first, 5 for second, and 2 seconds for the third place finisher up at the top of Jas Gibbel, the last KOM, number 5 on today's stage. Well, the director said, we don't think anybody's going to help us. We're riding full gas. Well, Mikkel Bjerg, he's in the right here, just pulling as hard as he can because you don't want to let 3 riders up the road, Remy Cavagna, Nielsen Palas, and Edvard Boasson-Hagen, who are all 3 strong riders. You don't want to give the gap any more leash on today's stage if the ideal is to win today's stage at all costs. We're going all in. We're going to drill the team as hard as we can because we want time bonuses at the top, like I said, and time bonuses at the finish, and maybe a second stage victory here at the Tour de France. I don't like that plan at all. I like the plan of Matteo Trentin where he tells Mikkel Bjerg, hey, we got to slow down a little bit because we're going too hard right now. We're going to burn up our team. This is day 2 of the Tour de France. Well, Mikkel Bjerg, he's not having any of it. He's just going to keep going full gas. So maybe the director sportif need to jump on the radio and tell the team so they're all on the same page because with 80 kilometers to go, we're going to see Matteo Trentin come back up and argue again with Mikkel Bjerg. At this point in time, you see Mikkel Bjerg getting a little upset. He still keeps riding fast on the front. And then we start seeing with 71 kilometers to go, this is when the brake starts falling apart. So you know they are going fast up there because Remy Cavagna, the Soudal quick-step rider, starts getting dropped out of that group of 3 and backing off. Now, once we go back to the peloton, with 70 kilometers to go, we see Vegard stuck a leg and he starts coming out the back for UAE Team Emirates as they're losing their first rider on the front. Now remember, they got 2 riders riding full gas. Vegard just got dropped, so he's got to get replaced, right? Well, it's time for Matteo Trentin to get on the front. And that's why he was upset a few kilometers back there with 120 kilometers to go at Mikkel Bjerg because he knows he's next in line. He gets on the front and he starts working. And then with 55 kilometers to go, it's Matteo Trentin crashing in the roundabout. They went through the left side of the roundabout. He slid out and crashed off over to the curb. They didn't show it on the video. When the picture does get on him, looks like he's okay as he's walking back across the road to his team director's car there, Machine. Machine's their main director here for UAE Team Emirates. But now let's bring the camera up to the front of the peloton because we see it's Grossschartner up there. Grossschartner is having some words with Mikkel Bjerg, and Mikkel Bjerg's just waving his hands around all over the place, pointing to his back wheel. You know he's just up there saying, dude, just get on my wheel. I got some legs today. I'm going to drill it. I don't care if any team wants to help us. We got 55 kilometers to go. I'm not even waiting for Matteo Trentin, my own teammate back there who crashed. Now, this guy could be a knucklehead, but he could be right. Depends on what the director sportif said. I believe he's a knucklehead. Director Sportif might have told him something different on the race radio, but Mikkel Bjerg's going full gas, and Grossschartner's just going to have to close the gap onto his wheel once he gets done waving at him with the hand gestures and get back to work on the front. Mikkel Bjerg does get some help because Vegard stuck a leg and he'll come back on. Now we start going up the penultimate climb. Before this, KOM 1, KOM 2, Nielsen Palas took both of those. Now we're going up to the penultimate climb and we see Edvard Boasson-Hagen starting to drop off of the wheel of Nielsen Palas. As he's coming off, the gap is down to about 2 minutes, just there under, and Nielsen Palas has to go solo from this point. Now he's got to make it up to the top of this climb if he wants maximum KOM points, but the group behind's been getting nervous. Now back there, guys, I could take you all the way back to 80 kilometers to go when they were going curb to curb because the gap was getting so close. The peloton's getting nervous, and that's the problem you start having if you start keeping the gap close. UAE team Emirates always had the option of just letting this breakaway go up the road. Now, Nielsen Palace was the biggest threat up here in the break because he's 1 minute and 42 seconds down on the general classification starting today, but he's not a threat for taking the race leader's yellow jersey all the way to Paris. So if I was UAE team Emirates and nobody was willing to work, I would have just let this group go and let EF Education get in the race leader's yellow jersey, but they got other plans. The Nielsen Palace will go up to the top of the penultimate climb, taking maximum points, and the peloton's following just behind them at about 1 minute and 45 seconds. Now I'm sitting on the Chesterfield thinking, Nielsen Palace, man, you are flying the flag for the U.S. It's time to back off the throttle, save your legs for another stage. This kid can win a stage here at the Tour de France, there's no doubt, but he wants to make it all the way up to the top of the Yaskibble with 15 kilometers to go in today's race and get some more KOM points. I'm thinking you already got that jersey wrapped up. Just save your legs and back it off. It's 35 kilometers to go, maybe just under, about closer to 32, and Nielsen Palace decides he's still going to go full gas. Well, behind UAE team Emirates are going full gas back there too with Mikkel Bjerg and Vegard Stokkeleggen, who's, I don't know how he's come back from the deathbed back there, but he's found his way back up to the front. We start getting down in the final valley here before the last and final climb starts. We see it, Soler drilling it. Soler's drilling it on the front. He's got Pogacar on his wheels. They're coming into the last final climb here, getting ready to start with 25 kilometers to go. Up front, Nielsen Palace time gap, it starts dwindling, but he's still got over a minute on the peloton, so he's going full gas. The first 4 kilometers or so of this climb, not so difficult, but not that easy either. If you went up it on your own, you'd say, Chris, that was a monster climb. But for the professional pros, it's a little bit softer on this side of the climb, the beginning, and then harder at the finish. So Nielsen Palace is holding this time gap, but when we look at the group behind, first it was Jumbo-Visma when the climb started proper in the first position here, and then all of a sudden, Larson Craddock. Let me back the film up just a little bit before he gets on the front. Look back there, he's right by his team race leader there, wearing the green jersey, sitting second on the general classification at this moment in the race, and that's Simon Yates. He's back there with him. He passes by on the left and goes straight to the front and takes over the front from Dylan Van Barle as Dylan Van Barle looks over and goes, "What? Who are you, man? Oh my God, it's Larson Craddock coming to the front for Jaco Lula." I don't know why they're on the front. At this moment, you do not want to bring back Nielsen Palace. You guys haven't wanted to ride for the stage all day. And if you start bringing back Nielsen Palace, let me remind you, there's 8-second bonus at the top of this climb. Well, Larson Craddock's on the front. He's drilling it. Then he gets some company from his teammate. That's Chris Harper coming up to his wheel. We'll see Larson Craddock pull over and Chris Harper take off, and he'll start setting a hard tempo early into this Yaskibble climb. Now, again, I don't get it. We saw yesterday that Simon Yates didn't have Chris Harper with him for much once the final climb started, and he's the only pure climber here set on Jaco Lula besides Simon Yates himself. So I would want to keep at least Chris Harper fresh, but Chris Harper's got other ideals. He's drilling it as the climb softens up a little bit as they go by the Sanctuary Church there on the right side. It's drilling fast as you see the peloton starting to fall apart. Up front, Nielsen Palace's gap is getting down to about 30 seconds. And then once we pass the Sanctuary, the climb starts going proper hard with about 3.7 kilometers to go. Nielsen Palace's time, you know he's going to get caught because just behind, just as Jumbo-Visma's Dylan Van Barle got on the front, well, guess what? Rafael Majka wanted to drill it instead. So we see Dylan Van Barle look over, pull hard right, and Rafael Majka's drilling it on the front. He's got Großschartner on his wheel, followed by Pogacar. Then Adam Yates is just a few spots behind that. So Rafael Majka knows right now that if they bring back Nielsen Palace, they're going for 8-second time bonus over Jonas Vingegaard. Well, they start going hard. Rafael Majka's doing a solid pull, and then we see Großschartner come up to the left side there of Rafael Majka. What's happening here? Felix Großschartner doesn't have good enough legs to go to the top, so he's pulling Pogacar. This is Felix Großschartner. Pogacar's here. He's pulling Pogacar up to the back wheel there of his teammate, Rafael Majka, so he doesn't have to close the gap. Pogacar, that is, after he pulls out and drops. He does that acceleration, gets his team leader, Pogacar, up to second position. Now Rafael Majka wheel looks over at Tadej Pogacar, and I'm sure he's thinking, sorry guys, that's all I got. I'm going stage left here, and I'm out. as Grossschartner drops back. Pogacar's put in second place. Rafael Micah keeps continuing the pace, and then he'll pull back Nielsen Paulus going up the climb with about 19 kilometers to go. As Nielsen Paulus comes back, you see his head drop down between the hands on the handlebar there. You know he went full deep here on stage 2, but he'll keep the race leader's KOM jersey at the end of today's stage. And the next 2 stages, well, they got a couple climbs in there, but Nielsen Paulus looks like he's on form, so he might be able to keep that jersey later into this first week of the Tour de France. Now, we see as Adam Yates comes up to the back wheel there of his teammate, Rafael Micah, going full gas. We're getting into about 1.1, 1.2 kilometers to go to the top of this KOM. And just as they're starting coming out of the crowd there and the fencing starts coming up, this is when Rafael Micah's throwing in a big dig. He'll go all the way into about 650 meters to go, and then he'll pull off, and it's time for Adam Yates to go to work. Okay, guys, this is a good tactic, but if he could have waited just a little bit longer, I would have liked it, because watch how it plays out. Well, it's Adam Yates going full gas at about 650 meters to go. Then about 250 thereabouts, this is the time when Simon Yates, Jaco Alula, throws in his attack. He goes, he's got Jonas Vingegaard locked on his wheel. Tadej Pogacar sitting about third, but just off to the side, so he's really only half wheel back. We see Jonas Vingegaard throw out the elbow. They're trying to push Tadej Pogacar off the wheel so he can't get onto the wheel of Simon Yates, who's going full gas. Now Tadej Pogacar, calm as a bomb like we always see the Slovenian is, accelerates over the handlebars there of Jonas Vingegaard, and now he's got the position. Once they start coming into about 150 meters to go, Jonas Vingegaard attacks over the right side there of Simon Yates and's going full gas. Tadej Pogacar is locked onto his wheel, and he starts his acceleration at just under 50 meters to go, and then just blows the door off of Jonas Vingegaard to take 8-second time bonus. But Jonas Vingegaard takes 5-second time bonus for second, so that's only 3, and Simon Yates gets 2 seconds for third. Now we look up at the front there. Jonas Vingegaard's locked onto the wheel of Tadej Pogacar, and Pogacar wants to go to the line. At this moment, tactics start getting really crazy, right? When I talk about the tactics back there, Jaco Alula pulling to try to bring back Nielsen Paulus just to give up time bonuses. Who couldn't see that coming? Well, we did. Tadej Pogacar blew the doors off, grabbed maximum time. Now Tadej Pogacar is going full gas. I'm sitting on the Chesterfield. Tadej Pogacar, how many times are you going to go full gas just to turn around and look over your shoulder like he does back at Jonas Vingegaard to know that Jonas is not going to pull to the line with you? But I'm going to bring this little story back once we get to the finish of today's stage. Now, we'll see Tadej Pogacar. He'll soft pedal for a bit. He'll get caught with about 12 kilometers to go as the group behind is going to grow to about 25 riders in size. Now we start seeing the first attack. We got Wout van Aert on the front right now. I'm not exactly certain why Wout van Aert would be on the front, because he should be their sprinter to try to win this stage 2. But Wout's on the front. The next attack comes. It's Pello Bilbao. He's going full gas down this descent. You know he knows this part. He's a Spanish rider, and we're up here in the north of Spain, so he's going full gas down the descent. Look at the picture behind. That's Wout van Aert. Wout can't close the gap there to Pello Bilbao. I don't know what I'm watching while I'm sitting on the Chesterfield, but Wout can't close the gap. As he's following, the gap just keeps increasing. We see all the curves there, and Pello Bilbao's going full gas to him. Extends it out to about 5-6 seconds with 8 kilometers to go. They'll do the left turn off the bottom of the descent of the Jaskibel, and then the road's going to start stair-stepping up and rising and always kind of going up to the finish here at San Sebastian. Pello Bilbao's going full gas. Wout van Aert is on the front still, but look at the back of the peloton as they came out of this final turn here off Jaskibel. There's some splits there. That's the race leader's yellow jersey in front. That's Adam Yates. Just a few riders behind him. That's Simon Yates, his brother. Just at the back there of the group, well, that's Victor Lafay Cofidis. Now, Victor Lafay went fantastic in yesterday's stage 1. Now he's sitting gunner position. He's just got one guy behind him, so Cofidis rider is getting the full rest here as he's sitting last wheel with the race leader Adam Yates closing the gap from Wout van Aert doing that big acceleration out of the final left turn. Now, Wout van Aert still on the front. Pello Bilbao still got that gap. And then finally, with just about 6 kilometers to go, we start seeing that as Jumbo-Visma come to the front. That's Wilco Kelderman and Thies Benoot. We got Jonas Vingegaard there and Wout van Aert, but Thies Benoot, Wilco Kelderman are doing big-time digs, and they'll pull back Pello Bilbao with just about 5.5 kilometers to go. Now we start seeing some more attacks as the first big attack comes from Emmanuel Bookman back there. Bora Hansgrohe rider does a solid attack going up the right side of the road. Wilco Kelderman's quick to start trying to close it, but Thies Benoot's starting to fall out the back of the group as we see Wilco Kelderman digging deep. He'll bring back Emmanuel Bookman, and then the next attack, Tom Pidcock. Tom Pidcock's throwing in a hard attack there going up the right side of the road. Wout Van Aert knows he's got to cover it because the legs of Wilco Kelderman are starting to fall off. The big guy closes the gap up to Tom Pidcock himself, and then the next attack comes. The next attack's going to hurt the legs here of Wout Van Aert because it's Skilmos, the winner of Tour de Suisse this year. Just a couple weeks before Tour de France started, it's Skilmos is going up the road. Wout Van Aert looks over his shoulder, realizes no one's going to try to close it, so Wout Van Aert has to close it again himself. He does, and after that, we see Wilco Kelderman come back to the front. Wilco Kelderman starts setting some tempo at the front with about 1.5 kilometers to go. Now it'll go all the way into the 1K Flamme Rouge as they see the bump in the road start going up. Now look to the left side as they hit the Flamme Rouge. That's Victor Lafay. Cofidis is throwing in attack. This is amazing attack. With 1 kilometer to go, he's going up the left side. Wilco Kelderman's legs, who have blown 3-4 times already here in the final 8 kilometers of today's Stage 2 of the Tour de France, he can't close the gap. We see Victor Lafay going full gas through the final left turn with about 600 meters to go. 400 meters to go. He's suffered on the front big time. Look at the back. It's Wilco Kelderman trying to close it. He has got nothing else left. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, Tish Benoot comes back in the picture with about 300 meters to go and starts pulling. It's not quite going to be enough because look at the gap from the helicopter. Victor Lafay's got enough of a gap, but Wout Van Aert throws in one more big acceleration with about 150 meters to go. Big guy can't quite close the gap, but look on his wheel, it's Tadej Pogacar. He's got to go all the way to the line to take time bonuses away from Tadej Pogacar. Victor Lafay sits up with about 25 meters to go, celebrates Cofidis' big comeback victory here at the Tour de France. Guys, they haven't won a victory stage here at the Tour de France in something like a decade and a half, and Victor Lafay lets out a huge roar, not once but twice. Look at the picture just afterwards. It's Wout Van Aert who's throwing the fist down, completely upset about losing today's stage. Tadej Pogacar gets third to round out the podium and gains another 4 seconds on Jonas Vingegaard after today's Stage 2 is finished. Now, when we break down the tactics is a little bit deeper. Remember I told you, like, what was Jumbo-Visma thinking, or Jonas Vingegaard at the top of that KOM? If they just wanted to bring it into a field sprint anyways, well, then sitting on Tadej Pogacar is a good idea. But if you sit on Tadej Pogacar, you remember it's going to come back together, and Wout Van Aert has a shot at winning the stage, right? That's why Jonas Vingegaard's doing it. That and the fact that he can't beat Tadej Pogacar if they come into a one-on-one sprint to the line here on Stage 2. So he's thinking, I'm going to bring it back, sit on Tadej Pogacar, bring it back, let the big guy Wout Van Aert win the stage. Well, if that's the case, then why was Wout Van Aert riding all the way down the Jaskibbel on the front? Because that had to hurt the big guy's leg. And then, if that was the case, let's take you all the way into the last K when Victor Lafay attacked with 1 kilometer to go. Well, Jonas Vingegaard's still in the race. He's still there in a group of 25. He can get on the front. He still has magical legs. Start pulling and lead it out and take the stage victory for Wout Van Aert after he brings back Victor Lafay. But instead, Jonas Vingegaard stays in the group, doesn't help out the big guy Wout Van Aert. So Jumbo-Visma don't win the stage, and they still lose 4 seconds to Tadej Pogacar. So if you just went over the top of the KOM, pulled with Tadej Pogacar all the way to the finish of today's stage, 10 seconds for first, 6 seconds for second, but you gain time on everyone else. So Jonas Vingegaard loses 4 seconds, but gets second on the stage and gains a lot of time on all the other general classification guys, including one, Adam Yates, who's wearing the race leader's yellow jersey, right? Well, you might as well have gotten on the front there for Wout Van Aert and drilled it into the finish if you're just going to give up time bonuses anyways, or rode up there at the top with Tadej Pogacar and gotten second on the stage with a possible chance at winning the stage, because I would have rode going down the descent of Jaskibbel if I'm not thinking Wout Van Aert 100%. Ride down with Tadej Pogacar, get him into about 1.5 kilometers to go, and then say, Tadej, you got to do all the work from here. That would burn his legs up. Then all of a sudden he's got nothing left for the sprint if you get caught from the group behind. Or if you don't get caught, that means he pulls in the last 1.5K, and maybe Jonas Vingegaard could win the stage and gain 4-second time bonuses on Tadej Pogacar. Either way, the tactics on today's race, not knuckleheadism for sure, but not tactics I would have played. If I'm UAE team members, I thought they wasted too much energy out there in today's race for only a 7-second bonus over Jonas Vingegaard. But in the end, 7 seconds, I'll take it. But that was a lot of work in today's race. Not quite knuckleheads, but not quite perfect. As you saw, the interview from Simon Yates said they did a good job today. They wanted the time bonuses, and so when it's all said and done, they were happy with today's race. But I thought it was a lot of energy spent on today's race without getting any help from the other teams behind. Jonas Vingegaard, Jumbo-Visma, I think you guys messed up too. Jonas should have pulled that last 1K, let Wout van Aert do the sprint, or work with Tadej Pogacar all the way into 1.5 kilometers to go and then sit on the guy so he's got no legs left to sprint to grab the time bonuses. Either way, like and subscribe. I'll see you guys on the next edition for Stage 3 of the Tour de France. It's the first day for the big sprinters to come to work here in the 23 Tour de France. Like and subscribe. I'll see you on the next edition real soon.